Hey family, this is Brother Prodigy back once again with another installment. This is page 5. Today's date is December the 4th, 2013, and I'm back once again. For those of you that really do know me, know that I'm not really one for long introductions. So let's really get into it, shall we? Let's really get into it. The title to this, I don't know yet, so I'll think of it as I go. Okay, so page 5. All right, and let me give a shout out real quick. Special shout out to Bobby Hemmett, because I really want to thank Brother Bobby for the years that he's spent and invested into giving out knowledge and wisdom that he's received. So really a special shout out first and foremost goes to Brother Bobby Hemmett, who's going through some times with his recovery. So thank you, Brother Bobby, because you've definitely paved the way for us in the Black conscious community to really expand our consciousness and to really learn under someone who is so powerful, has truly been magnificent. So definitely a huge, and one of the biggest shout outs goes to Brother Bobby, and we're all hoping to really see you make a speedy recovery. Shout out to everyone out there listening to this installment on YouTube or via the archives or wherever you happen to be listening to this installment. Okay, so shout out to everyone in the whole nine. Okay, now let's get into it, shall we? All is energy. All right, and for those that have heard my previous installments, my previous pages, know that I say this adamantly and persistently. All is energy, okay? All is vibration. Consciousness comes from really that moment when God, quote unquote, had its first lucid dream, so to speak, okay? A realization of well, and let me just say this concerning the word God. You know, I use the word God for, or in relation to, singular consciousness or divine consciousness, okay? So I don't want anyone to really get hung up on that, okay? Because I know there's a lot of stigmatism that's attached to the word God. So I don't use it in its traditional sense in relation to religion, okay? So let's really proceed further, shall we? Okay? Now, when we look at consciousness, consciousness comes from that moment when the divine or God really had its first lucid dream, so to speak, okay, which is a realization of consciousness. And everyone existing outside of divine consciousness, which divine consciousness is basically the consciousness that is self-aware, okay, the consciousness that is having multiple interactions with itself. And when in reference to the dead or those that are still plugged in, while part of the dream, they are not self-conscious, neither can they be, because they are not spiritually discerned. Even the Bible in 1 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 14 is interpreted as such. And when I look at evil, I see that it's merely a polarizing opposite. It's merely a polarizing opposite located on the opposite end of a vibratory spectrum. And because of this location and due to its low vibratory rate, it's considered to be a Satan. Now, this Satan is also a part of the mind of God. God is both good and evil, contrary to what's popular believed. It's just that God's attributes of good and evil are on opposite sides of a scale. When you look at polarity between masculine and feminine creates manifestation. Polarity between masculine and feminine create manifestation. These are metaphorically termed Logos and Sophia, okay? In Gnosticism, okay? Manifestation has the capability or the capacity to be both good and evil. When you look at good is basically evolution, that which is evolving or in the process of evolution or progress. And when you look at evil is that which is stasis and or regression. So the concept of evil is simply evolution of consciousness in reverse, or a deliberate hindrance promoted by one to thwart another's evolution of consciousness, both consisting and exhibiting characteristics of a low vibratory rate. Okay? Now, you cannot have manifestation without polarity. In this three-dimensional realm or plane, okay? Remember that, that's important. And when you look at ETs or archons, they're also manifestations within the mind of God and within our dimensional reality, okay? With other solar systems also being habitats for consciousness, okay? When you look at the modern day concept of God and the perversion thereof, it's really a direct perversion of ancient African formulas and concepts of truth regarding the inner man. So, in relation to learning, the learning capacity, it's not the physical body that really learns anything, but it's the divine mind which learns. And it learns through experience and direct observation. However, only divine consciousness and stimulating self-reflection of the divine leads to its knowledge of self. Okay? Now, knowledge of self is essentially, if you know who you are, knowledge of God. The ignorant masses of society are the teachers of the divine. You, me. And now, how is this? How are the ignorant masses of society teachers of the divine? They are the mirror images, or the mirror of compartmentalized ignorance, who have animation. These beings have animation and cognition, but not consciousness. Therefore, this plane of illusion is their home. Don't talk to them about the education that the divine consciousness is receiving, because they won't comprehend it. Okay? It's above their level of comprehension. Their job is essentially to represent ignorance, which is of a lower nature than yourself. So, since the dead, or the ones still plugged into the matrix, reflect your consciousness, you can learn from them. Okay? Every time we come into contact with someone who is unconscious, there is the capacity for you to learn of yourself. Okay? Looking through the glasses of the divine and seeing the truth that they are the mirror that teaches you who you are. It's just like when you get up in the morning and when you first look in that mirror, it's the mirror that's the teacher. It's the mirror that shows you what you look like. It's the mirror that shows you that you have a pimple on your cheek. It's the mirror that really illuminates you to your being, okay? Your physical being. So, moving forward, you can learn from them, okay? Now, their ignorance, the ones who are still plugged in, I'm speaking of, their ignorance is in direct proportion to your knowledge. Their ignorance is in direct proportion to your knowledge. Remember that, because that's key. Or to say it another way, when you perceive that a person has a certain degree of ignorance or is less evolved, etc., that measure of that person's ignorance by you is directly proportionate to your knowledge. So therefore, your measure of a person is never without a measure of yourself. Okay, and let me repeat that. All right. When you perceive that a person has a certain degree of ignorance or is less evolved, that measure of that person's ignorance by you is directly proportionate to your knowledge. So therefore, your measure of a person is never without a measure of yourself. This is what really keeps you connected to this experience and to others in relation to this realm. The illusions are what give this illusion its reality. By them not acknowledging anything other than this illusion, alright? The illusions that give this illusion its reality are your human artificials, your hollow walkers, etc. The belief system of this world is in matter, trying to build a spirit. This is where superficial, materialistic aspects of God come into play. However, to the divine, the truth is it's the spirit that's actually building the matter, not the other way around. Okay? The matter is not building the spirit is building the matter. Okay? It's the spirit that is taking upon itself dimensions and particles of matter in order to learn of itself, in order to gain knowledge and understanding of itself. And when you look at the corrupted matrix that has been specifically designed to keep the sons and daughters of light, the bens and bots of light, trapped through matter, okay? This matrix is specifically designed to keep you focused on the expression, to keep you focused on the material expression without digging deeper, without ascending to higher and more refined planes of existence. Because when we look at who you truly are, the thinker, you will quickly notice that it's the thinker who is taking upon itself particles of matter and building upon that. Okay? What we experience on this plane is just the denser form of those particles of matter that the spirit has taken upon itself. Okay? In order to learn what it's all about. In order for the spirit to learn what's really important and to learn its attributes and characteristics on this lower plane. So, for those that transcend this paradigm and keep their fleshly lusts for materialism and the things of this world, upon entrance into the astral plane, they will be faced with insatiable lusts of this lower plane manifested as vices that can't be fulfilled. This is why you must die to the flesh, which are worldly appetites, in order to purify your soul. Okay? Transcending out of this plane with, or still grasping to lusts of this plane is very bad, okay? Because the insatiable lusts that you carry or will carry with you will be unable to be fulfilled in a higher plane, okay? Which is automatically going to equip you with a handicap, all right? This dimension is essentially being held open by consciousness. This dimension is being held open by consciousness. If consciousness were to leave this dimension completely, this plane completely, this plane would essentially collapse. As of right now, consciousness is leaving this plane. So therefore, certain entities that either live off of this plane or are limited to this plane are vying for our attention to keep this plane open. It's just like, let me give an example. It's just like a poster. Okay? A poster comes tightly curled. All right? And then when you want to look at the poster, what do? You lay the poster out on a table and unroll it. Okay? And you use both hands to unroll the poster to see the picture or the image that's printed on the poster. But if you let your hands go off of that poster, it'll roll back up. It'll curl back up. That's a metaphor of the consciousness in the consciousness in relation to this plane. Okay, it's the divine consciousness that are your hands metaphorically rolling out that poster to see what it's all about. But the moment consciousness leaves this plane, then this plane will roll up like a scroll, like it says in also the book of Revelations. All right. That's really important to know, and it doesn't mean that this plane will be eliminated completely and rid of humanity, because it can happen with billions of people still living on Earth. Okay? However, those people will not be conscious. Those people will be zombies, the walking dead, essentially. Okay? So right now what's happening is you have consciousness, divine consciousness, that's transcending and leaving this plane. So in all actuality, since you have consciousness, divine consciousness leaving this plane, Earth is becoming less conscious. Okay? The universe is becoming less conscious. Okay? It's essentially dying. Alright? So, if the divine consciousness, remember, which is the consciousness that is capable of self-reflection, if it be completely removed, which we are in the process of that, eventually cancer would overrun this plane, and due to the inability of the cancer to provide enough consciousness power to keep this plane open, it will quickly collapse. Okay? Alright? Not to say that this plane cannot be reopened, because remember, it's just energy. Okay? It's just a vibratory frequency. This plane that we call our universe, the cosmos, etc., etc., is just an elementary vibratory rate. Okay? Alright? That divine consciousness is experiencing and working within in order to gain knowledge of self. See, consciousness in this plane is in critical condition. Leaders or elders in the conscious community are no longer being assassinated, because there needs to be, the powers that be know that consciousness or divine consciousness in this plane is in critical condition. Okay, so the leaders and the elders in our consciousness community are no longer being assassinated, because there needs to be at least an elemental amount of consciousness within this plane. Okay, so in order to keep it open. Okay, so it's kind of like a catch-22 for low vibratory beings. They need to feed off of beings that still possess that divine spark. However, they can't completely annihilate beings with that divine spark, because if they do, then they'll just be cutting off their food source. Okay? And through religion, billions upon billions are pledging allegiance to this realm. Okay, not only are they pledging allegiance to this realm, but they're pledging allegiance to the archons and the ones deliberately manipulating you and I. Okay, so those that are caught up in the matrix of religion are the Satan. They are our Satan. They are our adversaries, because by their ignorance, through their ignorance, the entities that they're energizing and praying to are the same entities that are feeding and consuming us. Okay, consuming us, the ones that have the divine spark. Okay, plain and simple. Religion is the worship of the malevolent beings of the astral plane. So, moving forward, when we look at prayer or just the power of thought in general, you have what are called negative thought forms. You have what are called negative thought forms. And to really learn more about negative thought forms, you can read a book titled Thoughtforms by Annie Besant and C.W. Leadbeater. Okay, that's Leadbeater. Okay, it's a book titled Thoughtforms. It's not really that big. It's about 80 some pages, 86 pages or so, and it goes into more detail about thought forms and the power of our thoughts and what our thoughts have the capacity to create. Negative thought forms, these thoughts, and basically what they are is, just to really give a quick definition or a brief summary of a thought form. A thought form is energy that buds off of your etheric body as the real you, the thinker, engages in self-awareness and interacts with its corresponding and surrounding environment. All right, and negative thought forms of others are really etheric parasites. Okay, generated out of the energy of the etheric vehicle. Because remember, you have the body, which is the weakest, the most savage, and then you have the etheric body, which is a grid of energy that really has an input and output. The etheric body is what receives the nerve signals of your body, so consequently it is interpreting what you're experiencing in this three-dimensional plane, as well as it also has an output which it gets from the thinker, the real you. Okay, that real point, that microscopic, for lack of a better word, point that is truly you, that takes upon itself fine particles of matter and builds upon that and builds upon that and builds upon that until it builds, the denser, the more it builds up, the more matter it builds up, the real you, the more denser the matter comes to be. All right, and basically the end result in this three-dimensional plane is the body. Okay, and the body, in order for the body to have any meaningful experience, it must use this proxy or this go-between, this middleman, quote unquote, which is called the etheric body or the etheric double in theosophical circles. And it's this etheric body that the thought forms really bud off of. Okay, it's that body that they really bud off of. All right, and that etheric body receives, because the etheric body is still in this dimensional plane. Let me also add that too. Okay, that's really important. The physical body, your physical body, and your etheric body are still in this physical plane. It's just the etheric body it's airy. Okay, it's finer than your physical body, so you really can't see it unless you really have a trained eye. You really can't see your etheric body. But your etheric body really is, well, I'll get to that later. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Yeah, I don't really get ahead of myself. Okay, so let me slow down just a bit. Let me slow down just a minute. All right, let me find my way again. Okay, I'm talking about thought forms. All right, I'm talking about thought forms. Thought forms are what we give off as well as what we can receive and be influenced by others. And they can either linger around the creator or influence the person whom the thought form was created for. They also have really, what's interesting is that these thought forms that really bud off of the etheric body, they have a small drive within them for self-preservation. Remember, the first rule of existence is self-preservation. So when we create, or when someone else creates these thought forms, depending upon how powerful they are, they have within them an element of self-preservation. Okay, etheric energies and constructs can really influence events at the quantum level. Okay, they can influence thoughts and emotions of others whom they latch onto. When you look at prayer or beings that people worship all over the world, a lot of them are these highly developed thought forms. The more energy and focus you put into an emotion, which an emotion is simply energy in motion, the more focused and concentrated energy you put into these emotions and thoughts, the stronger they become. And when you have millions upon millions of people doing the same thing and praying and investing their energy into the same entity, this same entity now becomes extremely powerful. Okay? And through their ignorance of them not knowing that who they're praying to or who they're worshiping is a malevolent entity, they're doing more harm than good is what they're doing at the end of the day. Okay? And it just makes our life harder in this plane. Okay? It just makes our life harder in this plane. That's why I'm so looking forward to transcending the bullshit. Okay? I'm tired of the ignorant masses of society putting us in these precarious situations over and over and fucking over again. It's ridiculous. You know, and these are people that claim to be intelligent. These are people that claim to be so spiritual. Alright? So, now, when we look at the astral plane is the last plane that still consists of matter. Okay? And in relation to consciousness, at the subatomic level, it's the consciousness that takes upon itself a body or vehicles for which it is able to express itself and really learn of itself on various planes of existence. There's also a book called The Etheric Double by A.E. Powell, and that's really a good book too. You should really check that out. It's called The Etheric Double by A.E. Powell. And in the first chapter, he talks about the very thing that I'm speaking of. Okay? Now, in relation to physical matter, there exists 7 grades or 7 orders of density. You have solids, liquids, gas, the etheric, the super etheric, the atomic, and the subatomic. Alright? Now, let's really talk about this word etheric, okay? Because I've been saying it a lot, and I think that it really should be defined. Now, I would define etheric as really a delicate substance which permeates all space. It lies between and encompasses every particle of matter, okay? Like a letter is to an envelope, okay? The etheric body encompasses every particle of our denser matter, and it's a medium of exchange between vibrations from the astral plane and the data that we get from this physical plane. We all have an etheric body, okay? The etheric body is the vehicle that supplies the prana, which is life force energy, to the cells in the physical vehicle. The etheric body begins where physical perception ends. However, it's still physical. Whenever you're dealing with the etheric body, or what's known as the etheric double, you're dealing with subatomic particles of matter that interpenetrate denser matter. Okay, and like I said before, this etheric body simply acts as a go-between in relation to the physical and astral bodies. The etheric body is what encases atomic particles and holds them together. Okay, now when we look at our experience, it's the impulse within consciousness that wills to experience. This will to experience is what causes, this will to experience by the thinker is what causes vibrations in the astral plane, which, like I said before, the astral plane is just a plane of refined matter, okay, in relation to our plane, which we're in now, which we're consciously experiencing, let me just say that, which is more denser matter. So it's the thinker that wills to experience, and by that will to experience, this causes vibrations sent into the astral plane. Okay, then they pass from the astral plane, which is just a different dimension, to the etheric double, causing an etheric vortex. Okay, which this is interesting. Okay, let me just start this all over again. Okay, and I'll go slow. Okay, it's the thinker that wills to experience, that wills to learn of itself. Okay, it's that which causes that sends out these vibrations. Okay, and these vibrations these vibrations are sent into the astral plane. Okay, it's like a domino effect. Then they pass along to the etheric body, causing an etheric vortex. And this vortex that it creates, it draws in denser physical particles. Now they eventually form a nerve cell and groups of cells which, receiving vibrations from the outer physical world, transmit them back to the astral centers in the astral body, and consequently back to the thinker. All right, see, and when we look at our physical reality, melanin plays such a pivotal role in consciousness. Okay, and what melanin is it's a substance, dark matter, that has etheric properties. Okay, that the first consciousness that expanded this realm, first drew to himself as that bridge between spirit and matter. Okay, so melanin is key and it is powerful. The accumulation and buildup of melanin in the neural areas of the brain evidence a close and ancient connection to original consciousness. Okay, this is why when you see a war on consciousness, when you see a deliberate thwarting of consciousness, you are witnessing a deliberate war on melanin. All right, melanin is a civilizing chemical. It reproduces itself. It's a free radical protector. It can be transformed in the blood. It concentrates nerve and brain information, and it also really neutralizes and oxidizes. Okay, it breaks down and converts substances. Okay, it's practically unchanged by radiation and can endure high temperatures of 1,225 degrees Fahrenheit. Melanin is a biochemical that has a high molecular weight. This means that it has many functions and links, like a chain that contain carbon, nitrogen, ether, okay, which is in close relation to the etheric body. And it also contains peroxides and is essentially a black carbon hydroamine. Alright? These various links allow melanin to be a polymer, which means a polymer just means it takes many forms. And polycyclic, which means it has many rhythms, okay? And it has a unique property in flexible chemical ability. Alright? So, that is the really importance of melanin. Okay, melanin is that which the divine drew, that which the thinker drew into itself in relation to material reality in order to bridge the gap between the thinker and a low vibratory material reality. Alright? So that's pretty much it for this installment. I don't have anything else to really go over, do I? No, not really. So I'll just close it out here, and I'll just say thanks a lot once again for all of you that are actually listening and that endeavor to take time out of your day to listen to these personal revelations as such. So once again, my name is Brother Prodigy, and wherever you're at, thanks once again for listening. Once again, today is December 4th, 2013, and if you are listening to this on YouTube, just stay tuned. I'll be back with more installments uploaded to YouTube or in the archives or wherever I happen to put them. So, okay, once again, thanks a lot. My name is Brother Prodigy.